Hello, this is Alan, welcoming you to the 1852nd edition of the Enfield Talking newspaper. Dateline 26 April 2012. The readers this week are Jenny, Phil, Alan, with Keith on the controls. The items that we will be reading come from our local newspapers, the Enfield Gazette, the Enfield Advertiser and the Enfield Independent, and are their copyright. Local stories include Gotcha, driver turns tables on clamper's parked van, total disregard shown for wildlife, police admit mistakes were made into bus driver's death, and Dad describes fatal stabbing. If you're experiencing any problems receiving your Enfield Talking newspaper, please phone Diane de Jersey on 020-8805-6578. She is your listener's representative and will be pleased to help you. At the end of side 2, please remember to turn over the address label in your postal packet, put the cassette into the packet, and return it to us as soon as possible, in readiness for the next edition. Now Jenny will read the first item of local news.
A motorist fined hundreds of pounds for parking illegally got revenge by snapping clampers blocking an alleyway with their van. Stephen Scott, 42 of Woodford Green, is the latest driver to be given a £205 fine by clamping firm City Watch Enforcement when he parked outside the Black Horse in Hertford Road, Enfield, for just 2 minutes on Monday. Mr. Scott paid the fine by credit card after he was told his car would be towed away, incurring more charges. However, he then noticed the clamper's van was blocking an access road for shops and got out his mobile phone to take a picture. He said, "The clampers started waving at me and telling me to stop. Then they started taking pictures of me. Once I drove off, they followed me. I don't know whether they were trying to intimidate me, but it didn't work." Why should these people be allowed to make money of unsuspecting shoppers who haven't seen the signs when they park like that? The youth worker had stopped to buy a pane of glass to replace a broken window in a church in Chingford where he was working. However, like other motorists who have contacted the Enfield Independent, he didn't see the warning signs. He added, "I hold my hands up and I don't expect to get my money back, but the signs are not obvious. Even so, I think more than £200 is a bit steep. It was no more than 2 minutes from when I parked and crossed the road to go into the double glazing shop to when I noticed they'd already clamped my car. I just think these people are filth. They're just waiting there to catch unsuspecting people, not criminals. I just think it's completely outrageous." Mr. Scott says the experience means he will not spend any more money in the area and warns other shoppers may avoid Hertford Road businesses if the charges continue. Swathes of motorists have complained in the last 2 months about being clamped within minutes of parking in Hertford Road, with IT consultant Ganesh Prakasam receiving a £1,100 fine when he parked for 3 minutes in a private car park. The Enfield Independent, Enfield Council and MPs Nick Dubois and Andy Love are calling on the government to push through legislation that would outlaw wheel clamping on private land. The Protection of Freedoms Bill is being considered by Parliament but needs final approval by MPs before it comes into effect. City Watch Enforcement was unavailable for comment at the time of going to press.
Campaigners are blaming a housing developer for allowing ponds, which are home to protected species of newt, to become a dumping ground for rubbish. The ponds, which are located on the former Middlesex University campus in Cat Hill, have been abused by fly tippers since developer L&Q took over the land. Beer cans, bags of rubbish and even a children's slide have been dumped near the ponds, and campaigners opposing plans to build 250 homes on the land are questioning whether L&Q values the area's wildlife. Kim Coleman, leader of the campaign for Cat Hill, claimed, "It shows L&Q has total disregard for the wildlife in the ponds or the wider area. It's let it become a dumping ground. It's totally contrary to what L&Q said at the planning committee meeting, where it said it would protect the wildlife. It's not taking any interest in the wildlife or biodiversity. It's only in it for the money, and it's let it go to rack and ruin. Councillors cited concerns about wildlife when they rejected L&Q's first planning application last month. The company is currently considering its options. Opponents of the plan held a 67-hour vigil outside the site in November and won the support of the campaign to protect rural England. Enfield Southgate MP David Burrows and Chipping Barnet MP Theresa Villiers. However, L&Q told the Enfield Independent it would look to prosecute anyone caught dumping rubbish on the site. It added, "We are arranging for the rubbish to be removed as soon as possible and will be carrying out regular security patrols around the pond area."
A leaked police report reveals that there were a catalogue of errors in the original investigation into the death of Kester David, whose burnt body was discovered in Palmer's Green in 2010. The report, written in January this year by Inspector Brian Casson from the Metropolitan Police, says the two Enfield officers who led the investigation failed in their duty after they did not inspect crucial CCTV footage or analyse mobile phone data following the death of the 57-year-old bus driver Mr. David. This evidence can no longer be recovered. Mr. David's body was discovered under a railway arch in Broomfield Lane in July 2010. The original police investigation concluded that he had taken his own life. The leaked report, published on the Guardian newspaper's website this week, also says that witnesses who might have held vital clues into the circumstances surrounding Mr. David's death were not interviewed by the police, and that DNA found on a pair of white trainers found near the scene was not cross-referenced with the National DNA database. Inspector Casson wrote the report following a complaint of racism by Mr. David's mother, Winifred Griffith. She claimed that officers failed to investigate her son's death thoroughly because he was black. According to the report, Inspector Casson said he was unable to say if racial prejudice was behind the police failings, and the officers concerned would have to be interviewed before he could come to any conclusions. Anna Crawford, the solicitor representing Mr. David's family, said, "The family were extremely shocked to receive this report, which revealed serious failings by the police. It found that important witnesses were not interviewed, crucial evidence wasn't obtained, and potential lines of investigation were dropped for no reason. They were extremely upset and distressed to have found this out in March, more than a year and a half since Kester's death." The Met decided to reopen the investigation into Mr. David's death 2 weeks ago and said it is retaining an open mind. A Met spokesman said the results of Inspector Casson's review and another review carried out in September 2011 were still to be considered.
A father has described the chilling moment when he saw a teenage boy lunge forward and plunge a knife into a student's chest following an argument about throwing conkers. Martin Casey told the Old Bailey how Stephen Grisales, an architecture student from Enfield, was arguing with 4 teenagers in College Close, Edmonton, before things turned violent on August the 31st last year. Dad of 5, Mr. Casey, who lives in College Close, was giving evidence last Wednesday at the trial of a 15-year-old accused of murdering Mr. Grisales. The youngster, who denies the charge, cannot be named for legal reasons. Mr. Casey spoke from behind a screen so as not to be intimidated by the defendant. The jury heard how Mr. Grisales and 4 teenagers were arguing on the street, with 2 boys throwing kicks and punches at him. In turn, Mr. Grisales raised his skateboard above his head and brought it down on one of the youth's arms. That's when one of the boys put his hand in his pocket and pulled out a knife and he stabbed Stephen with it, said Mr. Casey. It all happened really quickly. He leaned forward, he lunged forward with it and stabbed Stephen once. Stephen was kind of shocked, if anything. I asked him if he stabbed him, and he said yes. I could see that he was bleeding. His face went pale. I grabbed hold of him, and then I saw him go really, really pale. I tried to help him. Mr. Casey said that following the stabbing, 3 youths, including the one who had stabbed Stephen, left the scene. One girl was left behind, and she tried to administer first aid before an ambulance arrived and took Stephen to hospital, where he died the following day. On Monday, forensic pathologist Nathaniel Carey told the Old Bailey that the knife used to kill Stephen was pushed between his ribs and into his heart to create a wound that was between 5 to 7 inches long. The trial continues.
A group that encourages people to give away their unwanted items rather than dumping them is appealing for more members. The Enfield Freecycle group, which now has 10,000 members, allows people to list things they want to get rid of in the hope someone else will take it for free. The organisation now has a Facebook page. Moderator Mark Griffin, 52, who has led the group for nearly 3 years, said, "I don't like throwing things away. I guess that's how it started. But you get into a position where you have to get rid of things. I'd rather they went to other people than in the dump. We get all sorts of things put on the website, quite a lot of furniture and that kind of thing. About 3 weeks ago, we had an entire greenhouse that was taken by somebody. It's incredible, really." The Freecycle network was set up in the USA in 2003 and has since spread to more than 85 countries.
A book sale expected to raise more than £1,000 for 2 worthy causes is planned for this coming Saturday. The sale will raise money for Winchmore Hill Quakers and Enfield and Barnet and Palmer's Green Amnesty. Last year, a similar sale raised more than £1,000, which was split equally to help cover the running costs of the 2 charities. With even more donations coming from publishers, magazines and people living in the borough, this year's book sale is expected to smash last year's total. The event will be held between 11 a.m. and 3 p.m. at the Friends Meeting House. That's at 59 Church Hill, Winchmore Hill. And admission is free.
A Greek Orthodox free school in Trent Park is a step closer to opening after the plans were given initial approval. Department for Education officials will now interview the group leaders who want to set up the St Andrew the Apostle Greek Orthodox School at the site of the Middlesex University campus on Monday. If approved, the new school will take in pupils aged 11 to 18 from Enfield and Barnet from September 2013, with up to 50% from a Greek Orthodox background. Pupils of other religions or no faith will also be accepted. Yanis Piraeus said, "We are delighted to be successfully through to interview at the DFE. Demand for places is still growing, as is interest in teaching. An application by the Classical Education Trust and Russell Education Trust to open a school in the borough was rejected by the government last year, and organisers were told to return with a new bid. The university is due to relocate all of its students to its Hendon campus this summer, after plans to redevelop the Trent Park site were twice rejected by Enfield Council because of environmental concerns."
A grandfather from Bush Hill Park has become a first-time author at the age of 75. Colin Cosser of Edenbridge Road published his first novel, On Wings of Song, earlier this month after gaining a creative writing degree. He said, "When I retired, I was looking for something to do, and I'd always enjoyed writing, so I took a course at Middlesex University." His book is set in 1919 and follows the story of a child who is wrongly sent to an asylum and tries to escape. It was published through the website Feed a Read, which gets funding from the Arts Council to allow authors to publish books for free. Mr. Cosser, who has lived in Bush Hill Park for 30 years and used to work as a printer, added, "It's a great opportunity for first-time authors to get a chance to get published. and you need a leg up because it's very difficult these days. I've had feedback from people all over the world who have read the book, and it's been really positive. Now I'm halfway through writing the sequel.
That's excellent. An Edmonton cancer survivor says people have told him he is crazy as he prepares to run 300 miles in a week for charity. Phil King, age 43, of 4 Street, is in training for the marathon run along canal towpaths from Manchester to London next month, which works out at 1.5 marathons a day to raise money for leukemia and lymphoma research. The cleaning firm manager beat cancer when he was a teenager, but said he wanted to give something back after members of his girlfriend Norma Jean's family contracted blood cancer. He said, "Once I researched blood cancers, I was amazed by the number of people diagnosed each year, and the money is urgently needed to continue to save lives. When I've been running, I've always run along the canals, and I think they're a really beautiful part of the landscape that makes it feel like you're not in a city. People have told me I'm crazy, and I must be. I've certainly been getting some funny looks running up and down the A10. His week-long challenge begins on May the 12th, and his self-devised route will take him through Stoke-on-Trent, Coventry, Neasden, Enfield and Stratford before ending in Paddington. The fundraiser hopes to make £10,000 for the charity, which is dedicated to funding research into improved diagnosis and treatment for blood cancer patients." Jenny.
A church pastor says a new food bank will help families facing a squeeze on household budgets. The North Enfield Food Bank, run by charity the Trussell Trust and Jubilee Church, will provide emergency food parcels to families facing an unexpected shortage of money owing to redundancy or delays in benefit payments. The scheme will be run from the Emmanuel Centre in Baker Street 2 days a week and was officially opened by the Mayor of Enfield, Councillor Christiana During, on Saturday afternoon. Food Bank Director, Pastor David Pask, says he became convinced there is a need for emergency food in Enfield after visiting similar centres around London. He told the Enfield Independent, "These centres are popping up all over the place at the moment, and we want to do our bit to help out people in the area. There is a need for this. It's not about the homeless guy on the street. It's about people who, for whatever reason, are facing an unexpected crisis because of redundancy or a wage cut." Mr. Pask says the church is in talks with Sainsbury's and Asda to collect donations for the scheme, but Enfield churchgoers have already donated 3/4 of a ton of food to be sent out. He added, "It's about the community serving the community. The food comes from a variety of sources, and anyone can donate food if they want to." After volunteers sought donations to make sure they are in date, people who have been identified as in need and given food bank vouchers by doctors, social workers or police come to the centre to collect 3 days' worth of food. Information about agencies that can help with financial problems is also on offer. The Trussell Trust says a new food bank is opening around the country once a week as demand grows because of economic pressures on families. The North Enfield Food Bank is open on Wednesdays and Saturdays between 11 a.m. and 3 p.m.
An infestation of mice forced a delicatessen to close down after environmental health officers found droppings throughout the eatery during an inspection. The owners of Gabby's Deli in 4 Street, Edmonton, were forced to pay costs of £1,294 after inspectors found widespread evidence of mice during an unannounced inspection on April the 3rd. These included mouse droppings, dozens of holes through which pests get into the premises, and a lack of hot water for cleaning and washing hands. The officers immediately issued an emergency health prohibition notice for the closure of the premises. Chris Bond, Enfield Council's cabinet member for the environment, said, "It is completely unacceptable for places which sell food to endanger the health of shoppers by failing to take proper precautions and operating filthy and unhygienic premises. We do not tolerate shop owners who cannot or will not comply with the law. We take a dim view of premises which fail to control pests on their property and will continue to close down dirty, unhygienic or vermin-infested food premises that endanger the health of our residents. The deli reopened on April the 13th after officers were satisfied that the problems had been addressed.
Oh, that's put me off my dinner, Phil. Scouts in Enfield are celebrating a significant rise in their numbers over the past year, with 97 new members joining the movement. There are now 2,301 Scouts in Enfield, including Beavers, Cub Scouts and Explorer Scouts, an increase of 4.4% on the previous year. Scouts Development Manager for Enfield, Russ Dibble, said numbers had been on the rise for the past decade after the movement was modernised in the early 2000s. We changed lots of the activities we offer, he said. We still do the main things like teamwork and camping, but we are very keen that the Scouts themselves have a say on what they do. We do things like white water rafting, climbing and archery. We do the Duke of Edinburgh's award scheme, and we also do the Queen's Scout Award. Within the Scouting movement, which has been open to both boys and girls since 1900, teenage girls are the fastest growing group, according to Russ. I think they see their friends doing things like going to Namibia, Denmark and Sweden and carrying out development projects all over the world, and they think they want to get involved, he said. The Scouts movement in Enfield has been developing in popularity for the past 7 years, and North London is one of the fastest growing areas with a 20% rise in membership. Since it was founded in 1907 by Robert Baden-Powell, much about the movement has changed. Russ said, "We used to be very much about wearing the Scout uniform wherever you were, but now we think that if you're climbing a mountain, you don't need to wear a smart shirt. Although for formal events, we still wear the uniform."
A married couple have reeled in their final customers after closing up their fishing, hunting and motorcycle shop after 30 years. Cyril and Evelyn Norris owned and ran G. Matthews in Silver Street since 1983, but have now sold up to retire. Mrs. Norris said, "We hoped to sell the business for someone else to run, but there were no takers. Trade has suffered because people come, get the rundown on all the specialist equipment, and then find it on the internet for less money. The recession doesn't help either." The shop, which is part of the Enfield Town Conservation Area, has a long history. Before Mr. and Mrs. Norris took over in the 1980s, it was a scooter shop. Independent businesses have occupied the site since 1927, when a service for charging wireless radio batteries was founded by Horace Holding Matthews. The eclectic showroom, lined with shotguns, fishing rods, and an extraordinary range of gear and clothing, harks back to a time when Enfield Chase was a royal hunting ground. Christopher Jeffcott, who is president of the Enfield Historical Society, said, "It was a real institution. I had a Lambretta service there in 1968. Just around the corner was Grout's, a hardware shop. Enfield had many more independent shops back then, but now it's too expensive."
The inquest into the death of a cyclist has been postponed to allow police time to launch a full investigation. Frank Mugisha, 41, of Hoe Lane, Enfield, died in hospital as a result of his injuries 6 days after his bike collided with a car in Great Cambridge Road, near the junction with White Hart Lane, Tottenham, on March 27. The inquest opened at Barnet Coroner's Court on Thursday and was adjourned for 6 months to give police time to complete their investigation into the case. A 62-year-old man who was arrested at the scene of the collision was bailed until yesterday. The results of a post-mortem performed last week revealed that Mr. Mugisha died as a result of multiple injuries. Police are urging anyone who witnessed the collision to call the Road Death Investigation Unit in Chadwell Heath on 020 8597 4874.
We have now reached the end of side 1 of this tape. Please stop your machine now, take out the cassette, turn it over, and start side 2, and we'll see you there.